From the Sunflower Shop, this is the Healthy Approach Podcast. I'm Bryan Bradford. It's that time of year again, but this time will hopefully be different. Kids will be going back to school, back into the classrooms, and back into large group settings. So now is the time to strengthen the immune system, promote better brain function, and balance their moods. Where to start, you ask? That's what today's podcast is all about. Back with me again is President and CEO of BIORAY Products, Stephanie Ray. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me, Bryan.
Well, thanks so much for being here today. I mean, we're fixing to get ready for back to school, so we're looking at immune function, all the good stuff that we need to talk about today. But let's first, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you started BIORAY Company?
Sure, I would love to. So I am a board certified naturopath. And I also have 30 years of traditional Chinese medicine as a background and biochemistry as well. So we had 5 clinics in the Los Angeles and Santa Monica area over quite a number of years. And that is actually where all of BIORAY's formulas come from, is creating them in clinic and working with patients. And it's been a really wonderful amalgam of, clinic practice and working with herbs and making these delicious tonics. Yeah.
Well, the tonics have been great because, a lot of customers are always talking about what great results they're getting from it. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show. But really, since we're getting these kids ready back to school, we need to get your immune system healthy. We need to get them ready to be around large groups, their teachers and sports again. So how can we start supporting our kids' immune system now?
Well, we can just off the bat, we can start with, of course, some antioxidants, things like Camu is great, blueberry, elderberry. It's on parents' minds. How do I keep my son or daughter healthy and supported? Because we know that they're going to be under a new stress, and stress has a little diminishing effect at times on the immune system, so making us a little bit more susceptible to what's going around. And herbs that support the lungs and throat and the body's ability to adapt are going to be important, that we just keep on board on a daily basis for our kids. And yeah, we love our NDF Immune. It's high in vitamin C and antioxidants, and it has adaptogens and medicinal mushrooms that help modulate the immune system. So whatever the immune system needs, whether it needs some upregulating or downregulating, NDF Immune will do that.
And you talked about camu and blueberry and stuff. Those are the ingredients that are in the NDF Immune. Can you explain why those really work for the body's immune system?
Absolutely. So, when we have oxidative stress, it robs the blood of oxygen. We use more minerals to combat that type of stress. And so an antioxidant is the opposite. So it's going to bring good circulation, oxygen, and help the immune system keep its status quo, its homeostasis. And then we can be in environments that may be a little tough. Our kids can be in environments that are a little tough, but they'll be just fine.
Yeah. And what about the kids who are, going back to school? I know a lot of kids get nervous stomachs and those jitters again. What do you got for those type of issues with kids?
So it's an issue for a lot of kids, even when they're used to school. But I think this year we might see something a little bit different in kids just getting into the flow of it and being social again. So it could even be a little bit of overexcitement. So I recommend NDF Tummy for kids under 12 or BIORAY's Bellymen for teenagers, because in our in our study with these 2 formulas, we showed that when we decrease the bad bugs in the GI tract, that gut-brain axis improves and kids became more social, no stomach aches, they were more empathetic, more loving, and they were able to get along with their peers, listen to their teachers, and it's really a wonderful way for kids to just know, okay, they get this really great sense of all is well. And that's quite literally where that serotonin and dopamine receptor sites live, between the brain and the gut, is that they help support us in feeling all is well.
That's right. I love all the research that's just coming out on the microbiome and the GI tract. And it just shows that old cliche we've always said that everything begins in the gut. It really does. It's being proven more and more every day. So very important to make sure that tummy, the GI tract, like the good bugs, as you said, are all in balance. And so I think that's a great product for people to get started with for something like that. So what makes these I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to just say it really is because, something that I found fascinating is that we have the same beneficial chemicals in the GI tract as we do in the brain. And so when those chemicals, receptor sites, are able to speak with each other, we have that connection, and we can speak our mind. I mean, the words are right there. We want to be social, so there's just so many benefits of that really good beneficial.
That is so true. And I also understand you have a supercharged way of helping kids with a breakfast food and NDF tummy or belly bend.
Yes. So we do a little breakfast recommendation here because it's easy, it's really impactful, and it supports the gut-brain axis and those happy hormones that we talked about, the serotonin and dopamine, and it decreases stomach aches. So we'll have those recipe cards for you, Bryan, that you guys can give out as people ask for them. You can put it on your website. But basically, it's a combination of organic oats, NDF tummy or belly mend, and fruit or honey, and yogurt containing live cultures. And this probiotic blend actually makes a prebiotic. So as our kids go through the day and perhaps they're having some fruit later or a salad, some veggies, it actually takes those and turns the beneficial probiotics in those foods and multiplies them. So now we've actually supercharged the GI tract for taking foods that have the potential to be a probiotic. When it's blended with a prebiotic, they just flourish. And so consuming these prebiotics for breakfast increases that beneficial bacteria in the gut, and other, when we're eating those other enzyme laden foods throughout the day.
I've always touted the importance of breakfast being one of the most important meals of the day, especially for our children. And you're right, a lot of these kids are going to school without even eating. So doing something like this with NDF tummy would be a great start. I bet you would see a whole difference in their personality, their moods, and everything throughout the day if they did that. So very, very important for breakfast, for sure. So what's in the two formulas that make these things work so well?
So they both have 11 different strains of probiotics. And we break the cell wall, and it's called a lysate. It's a little bit different than your classic probiotic. A probiotic lysate is actually Greek meaning to break or to loosen. So we've broken the cell wall. And what happens is now this probiotic becomes more apt for pushing bad bugs out of the gastrointestinal tract. And it does it very quickly in 21 days in our study. So very easy, very tasty, and very, very impactful.
Okay, so we got something to help the stomach, those nervous jitters for the kids. What about the kids who are in a mood, the ones that don't want to go to school or get up or just not motivated? What can we do to help them out with their moods in general?
Well, that's a great one. And I know that I have a lot of girlfriends. My boys are older now, but the teen years, and they ask me, what can I do? And we have to look at the liver. So in traditional Chinese medicine, we look at the liver is the valve for, healthy moods or not healthy moods. And I'll just call it moodiness because they're not healthy or non-healthy. It's really just a moodiness. And it's also the organ system that's going to support toxins leaving. So when the liver's not processing toxins, we become moody. Our teens become moodier because they're also trying to process new hormones that are being manufactured. In our younger kids, it can look like children that can't sit in circle, or they have a hard time listening to their teacher because they've got a lot of things going on up here as the liver's not moving down and out. So things like ammonia likes to rise up to the head area. And so when we're supporting the liver, that doesn't happen. They're processed, they go out through the fecal route or the urinary route, and we have happy, non-moody kids. And there's a real relationship to the skin and the liver. So our teens that may be having some hormonal imbalances or issues, or like I say, they're manufacturing them newly. If there's some skin issues, supporting the liver will really help that as well.
I think it's so fascinating how traditional Chinese medicine has always been so far ahead of us in understanding that a lot of our moods and emotions are related to certain organs of the body. I think that's just always been fascinating. And you're right. I've seen anytime you help someone with that type of moodiness and you focus on their liver, there really is a difference. And I challenge anyone to try it. But what about the kids who had the explosive anger? Is the same thing, or do we do something different with them?
That's a little bit different. And it's interesting because sometimes supporting the liver while supporting explosive anger can be helpful. And the reason being that explosive anger, or if parents notice an increased craving for sugar or carbohydrates, we're going to look at unwanted organisms. So those are something that are completely normal because the eggs of those unwanted organisms tend to live under the nail, around the cuticle bed. Kids get them playing with their pets. They may be playing in the dirt. If for those of us that eat out a lot, we pass them, in restaurants. They've been found, in foods and on our dishes, not to make anybody grossed out. But if we're not washing our hands properly, those do exist. And that's how we get them. That's how they come to be. Mm-hmm. And then as they multiply, it just becomes, they start skewing the emotions because they tend to create a disturbance between the nervous system and the brain. And so pretty soon a person's not feeling quite like themselves.
Very interesting. I mean, I know our whole society and world's about bacteria and parasites and fungus and all these things. It's always about balance, right? And that's really what your company has done, is put together a lot of herbs and good ingredients that help promote that balance. And that's what I really like about BIORAY's formulas that you've done a great job with. What about children who have a hard time focusing, that kind of ADD looking kid, or, just not finishing their work or having trouble concentrating? What do we do for that child?
Well, in that child or those children, we need to look at the cells. So when we have a hard time, maintaining focus or concentration, the cells tend to not be fully electrified. We're electrical beings. And so in two of our formulas, India Focus and Mind Focus for teens, we fermented some specific herbs that help the cells have energy. It makes something called fulvic acid, and fulvic acid is like giving the cells energy. When the cells are fed, it's like, oh, I can think, I can focus, I can stay with the project for as much time as needed. When the cells are low and they're not able to communicate or not able to take in new information, it's you see somebody fidgety, or they're looking around and they can't sit still or stay with something, or even with a conversation with somebody. So India Focus actually in our EEG study brought beta and theta up and into balance, and beta and theta are responsible for helping us stay or be at present time consciousness. So it's not an over energy in helping us focus, but it's more of a balanced energy and like a centeredness.
That's right. I mean, most of us would think it'd be an over energy, right? Like we just didn't get all that good energy out, and that's the way it sort of presents. But you're right. It's really about an imbalance that's going on. And so that's sort of what this product is doing. I know sometimes, focus is also due to a lack of sleep, but what about kids who are just having trouble sleeping? What are you doing for those children?
Well, we are, first of all, I love recommending a ritual. So I think that this is my own personal opinion. I think that children need to be taught how to get themselves to sleep. We can certainly help them in other ways, but, for example, I think creating a nighttime ritual for kids is important. Helping teens discover how to balance that social, school, and downtime life is really important because they're new. They're new at this. They've suddenly got, these timetables and impact of reports being due at certain times. And so they're being, brought up to learn how to exist in an adult world. So I think that those things are really important. As the body sleeps, that's when the brain defragments. It's like when we turn off our computer at night, when the next day we come on, we turn it on and wow, everything's bright and shiny and it's, Microsoft Word's working again. And the brain is very similar. So we take in all this information during the day, and at night when we sleep, it's, quite literally defragging. And so, I did put, talk with you a little bit earlier. And, some of the things to know is that like from, 4 years old to 12 years old, the recommendation is sometimes up to 12 hours of sleep a night, which seems like a lot, but that's what it takes. For a teen, it's going to be 8 to 9 hours. So, doing something like making sure they've, had some water, showered, brushed teeth, like everything's very calm before half an hour before sleep is really important. And then if, there's still an issue, I've formulated NDF Sleepy for kids under 12 and Get Sleepy for teens. And this helps the body go from a waking state to a sleeping state. There's 3 main ingredients that on their own, they are used for sleep in traditional Chinese medicine. However, in a study, it was, they were trying these different sleep ingredients. And when they put them together, it went from the mid 40 range average of getting somebody to a sleeping state. It went up to 92%.
Wow.
So these formulas work very quickly in about 10 to 20 minutes. And what they're doing is they're actually modulating the GABA receptor sites. So that's kind of the, if the brain is going to be a little bit hijacked, we want those GABA receptor sites modulating or, defragging. And that's what this formula does. And it wasn't our study. It was an independent study that showed this. So, yeah, it's a very effective formula. I use it even before going to the dentist myself. It really just, gives the chill.
Yeah, like you said, the GABA receptors, the GABA is the brain's natural volume, right? It's very good at just calming those brain waves. And you made a great point about the rituals too. I was thinking about COVID. Coming out of the year of COVID, think of all these rituals that were really just messed up because we got homeschooling, different times now, trying to develop new rituals during that time, I'm sure was very disruptive to the kids. So I can see why, the sleep issues, the tummy problems, all these things are really even amplified because of what just happened last year. So hopefully it's a much better fall and back to school for these kids. Lastly, I got one more question for you though. What about kids having trouble going to the bathroom, especially number 2? That's one of the big complaints we get asked about all the time here at the store. What can we do to help these kids out?
So in TCM, we say if the bowels are not moving every day, no progress can be made. And it's just something that needs to happen because as we eat and we metabolize food and we have the remains or what we've metabolized, it needs to leave. Otherwise, it just gets recirculated. And so the bowels, I don't know if most people know, our kids should be having 1 to 3 movements a day. They should be soft, not hard. They should be like a banana, not grapes. And they should be a light brown color, and there should be no straining when our kids go. And I know that for teens, there's a lot of junk food. There's, high carbohydrates and sugars, and those tend to be drying to the intestinal tract. And with our little kids, I went through it as a mom. My kids had periods where it was just really difficult. And so I formulated Pooper for kids under 12 and Good to Go for those older than 12. And they have herbs that moisten and lubricate the intestines. And so everything, the poo slips out, it never becomes too soft or runny, and kids have enough time to get to the bathroom. That was the other big thing that I wanted to do, was make it that, I have to go, and there's herbs I formulated in there to take the anxiousness away. So when kids tend to have sluggish bowels, they can hold on to it afterwards because there's pain involved, or it's just uncomfortable, or some kids say it's scary. So there's herbs in there like white American ginseng, there's lycium and goji berries, there's our 11 strain probiotic blend, along with these other herbs that moisten and lubricate the intestines so that kids actually feel relaxed to go. And it's working really well. Actually, Pooper is the #1 kids' bowel supplement in the nation right now.
And is that something a child can take all the time? Because I didn't hear any herbs in there that were addicting to the colon or anything.
None. No, there's none that are addicting to the colon. In fact, the first ingredient, linum, is very high in omega-6. So we're, really doing it with some, great phytochemicals that are actually beneficial for the integrity of the intestines and the colon. And no, it's non-addicting. You can be taken as needed. It can be blended with these other formulations as well. In the morning, if a mom or dad wants to mix them together, say with Calm, supporting the liver and the bowels together is a wonderful solution. If that's a combination that your child has, like frustrated, moody, mixing some Calm with some Pooper is a great combination.
And that's the beauty of the herbals, and especially what BIORAY has done in these formulas, is that you can mix and match just about anything in the line, right? Not without worrying about overdosing or problems with it. So it's a beautiful thing when you can help all these different systems of the body work better, and BIORAY did a great job at doing that. Stephanie, you're always a wealth of information, and I appreciate you being here today. And we got to do more of these and keep getting the word out that there are alternatives to help, especially our kids, get back to school naturally.
Thank you so much, Bryan. It's such a pleasure to talk with you.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Healthy Approach Podcast. Please subscribe if you like this podcast, and help us spread the word by rating and sharing with your friends and family. If you'd like to learn more about natural ways to protect your immune system, or even more about BIORAY products, go to sunflowershop.com, that's shop with 2 P's and an E, or visit us at one of our 2 locations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.